I'm Kat.
I'm Haley.
And this is Night Classy, the podcast where two teachers unwind, sip wine, and each teach a lesson we cannot teach at school. What are we drinking, Haley?
We are drinking Zeta Pegaso Garnaca.
Ooh.
Yes. If I say it with confidence, I think that will probably get me far. It's obviously a red wine. Maybe not obviously, but it's very good. That's what I know. I like it a lot. The year is from 2018. Now, before we started this episode, you had a guess about what hints you were tasting in this wine.
Yeah, I just felt like it tasted spicy. I was like, I'm getting cinnamon and nutmeg. And then if I have to name a fruit, maybe plum.
Interesting.
Cherry. Am I totally off?
Yeah.
Yeah. That checks out.
Yeah, it's a lot of red fruit notes, like cherry, strawberry, raspberry, with some oak and vanilla.
Okay, I got the cherry.
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's weird because to me it tastes like Glühwein, which is like German mulled wine, which has like spices in it. But maybe it just tastes like Glühwein to me because it's like kind of sweet and fruity, and you like put fruit and shit in Glühwein.
Yeah,
and cherry brandy, which maybe that's where I'm getting the cherry.
Yeah, it seems like there's lots of layers to it. It's a complex wine.
Yeah,
it's bold.
Very good. It's juicy.
It is. This is like truly grown up juice.
It truly is. Also, like it's kind of a pricey one for us.
Yeah, it is. Especially like we've been rehab now off of the box wine, thanks to High Point Grocery. But
thank God.
But if you're willing to spend $20 on a good bottle of wine, this is your wine for $19.99. You can also drink the wine that we are drinking right now.
Yes, if you go to High Point Grocery, our partner that is in Memphis, Tennessee at 469 High Point Terrace. So check them out. They're an awesome locally owned grocery store with an incredible wine selection. So we thank you, High Point.
All right, sweet. So you said you had some stuff to talk about.
Well, I just want to give us both a huge congratulations for passing our praxis tests.
Yes. I am amazed. I shouldn't be amazed, but this is the highest score I've ever gotten on a praxis.
That's amazing. I scored like dead in the middle of average, and I was like, that's enough.
I mean, if it gets the job done and you passed, what more can they ask for?
Right. If you don't know, we've been teaching in the classroom now for 2 years on our own. Like we're not student teachers or anything, but like in order to get like a professional certification, we had to take this test and then teach a third year, which we were planning on anyway. But like now we can teach past that third year. And this test was on like teaching theory and like all this stuff. Like I was not an education major, so I was a little bit worried about this test. And you weren't either. I know you did some early childhood stuff though.
Yeah, it was my minor. So it was just all on the principles of learning and teaching, like all the very basic foundational stuff, which we are going through this teaching program, but you know, there's only so much time.
Right. Absolutely.
Cheers to us.
Cheers
we
to us.
Did it.
I'm so happy. I was in Florida this weekend and I found out that I passed. Haley texted me actually that the praxis scores were in. So I checked and I passed. And I was literally just grabbing my extra rum pina colada from the tiki bar on the beach. And then everyone at the tiki bar celebrated with me. And it was a great moment.
As you should. All of that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was perfect. And then I took my pina colada back to the beach and drank it and then went swimming.
Wow. I remember the first time I had a real pina colada. It was in Costa Rica. And I was like 18 years old. And I was like, this is what I want.
This is living.
Yeah. I don't need to know anything else about life other than Costa Rica and pina colada.
Yeah. You need to get like really rich in a Ponzi scheme and then have to flee the country to like a beach shack in Costa Rica. That's the life.
I have to?
Yeah.
Personally?
I mean, if you want that life. Seems like the only way to get it in my mind.
Well, you could just get really rich anyway and have a house. Like my uncle is, he's well off. And he has that second house there, little bougie ass uncle.
I guess I just fantasize about leaving everything behind and going to a beach shack in another country.
For some reason, it has to be a Ponzi scheme.
You have to be forced. Sometimes you need that extra push, as in the feds are after you.
All right. Well, when you join that scheme, I'll be one of the people who's below you, and then I'll recruit more people.
I think we should work on it like a team. Ooh, we could be like a Nixium situation where like I set up the pyramid and am doing my thing, but like you're the social aspect and you like recruit people and make them think they're really doing something.
Yeah, I think that would be a good fit. You're very strategic and I feel like business minded, and I'm good with people.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you're not, but
no, I'm not.
That would be a good sign for me.
I'm literally not. I'm terrible with people.
See, this is what we started this podcast for, so that we could figure out our next venture.
I think we got it. Also, for legal reasons, this is a joke.
Yes, absolutely. Please no.
Yeah, I do not believe in Ponzi schemes unless I'm at the top of the pyramid.
It's Ponzi.
Ponzi?
I wasn't
Really?
going to correct you guys,
I
but then you said it like 5 more times.
Oh my God.
I was saying it wrong. How many times has this happened? Where you say something wrong and then I second guess my entire life, and then Alex like, actually,
And I'm always like, I don't need to butt in. They're never going to say Ponzi again. And then, of course, it's like Ponzi.
Oh my God, I never knew. I think I may have only ever read that word.
Oh my God, that's so funny. We do a Ponzi scheme, but we're like selling bonsai trees, so it's a Ponzi scheme.
A Ponzi bonsai.
There's the recovery right there.
No, but I'm
Wow.
glad you interjected, because there have been times where we say something incredibly stupid and I'm listening back and I'm like, wow, that's embarrassing. And then Alex like, yeah, I heard it in the moment, but like just didn't say anything. And like, why? Why wouldn't you say anything?
Well, you have to really pick and choose when you're going to cut in, because it totally interrupts the flow.
Yeah, but also I don't want to look stupid.
Yeah, there have been so many times where you have said something and I'm like, oh, that's how you pronounce it. Like that happened like 3 weeks ago.
You
or
need to
2
start
weeks ago.
questioning me. Just because I say something with conviction does not mean it is true or correct.
You're a history major. You're more cultured than I am. Like, you know, generally.
I did know who Flight of the Conchord was a second ago, and you didn't. So
There you
if
go.
that's the bar for cultured, I'll take it.
We did cut out the best one of all time, which maybe I'll have to cut this out again if you guys want to. But the indicted,
Oh, yeah. Who was saying that?
you guys both said it.
Indict. Oh, yeah.
It
And
was
then
in
you
my
said,
notes,
but that's
though.
how Google autocorrects it.
That is so silly.
Yeah, the
and
bit you
stupid.
guys was that they were saying indicted for the word indicted, and I interjected and said it's indicted, and they said, oh, well, Google's been correcting it to indicted, which is how it's spelled.
Okay.
I hate English. Okay.
Yeah, it's just not fair. They were setting us up for failure. Also, it makes me glad we don't have a true crime podcast, because if we did, that would be embarrassing.
Yeah.
Not that not having a true crime podcast is embarrassing, but
Trying to pronounce legal words.
Yeah.
Like Esquire. I would have just been like like, you know how it's like, it'll be like the abbreviation after people's names, like
Oh.
ESQ.
I didn't know that. I wouldn't know.
Oh, well, there.
Yeah.
See? Yeah, it would have been really embarrassing.
There's just a lot we don't know.
That's so true.
Yeah.
The world is our oyster.
I know. I know 6th grade math. That's something.
I know the alphabet.
Yeah.
And the numbers.
That's something to be proud of.
Cheers to that.
Well, speaking of things to be proud of, I am very proud of our new Patreon supporters.
Me too.
And actually, maybe I'm not proud of them, but I am thankful for them.
I'm proud of us and thankful for them.
That's what I was going for. Thank you. But we do have some new Patreon supporters to shout out. And first off, I want to thank Dakota Egbert of Maple Falls, Washington. I think both of our new patrons are Washington people.
They are.
So my home state is really coming through. Thank you, guys. And I'm really excited for Dakota because she has recently been accepted to the education program at Central Washington University, and she's going to be an English teacher.
Oh, wow. Hopefully you don't have to do the EdTPA. Yeah. Also, congratulations.
Congratulations, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, but Dakota, we're really excited for you, and glad to have so many cool teachers into the ranks.
Absolutely.
So thanks, Dakota.
Thank you, Dakota. I'd like to shout out Jessica Marie from Redmond, Washington.
Hey.
She is an emergency medicine PA. She has 3 children, and they're young at that. An interesting thing about her, though, is that she didn't start out in the medical field. She started as an art major in undergrad, but somehow ended up becoming an ICU registered nurse in the process.
I'm sorry.
She's doing a lot. And then she went to grad school to become a physician's assistant. Not only that, but her and her husband are both in the medical field. So they have their fair share of debt, going to school in America.
They're doing the most, and I'm thoroughly amazed.
Me too. And she just mentioned that she started this Etsy store called The Graphic Art of Medicine, where she creates t-shirts, mugs, merch for her fellow healthcare people and science nerds. So I just wanted to shout that out because it's her artistic outlet, even though she can't do that in her day-to-day job. And she also wanted me to mention that since her and her husband are both in the medical field, they've been on the front lines of COVID for a really long time now. And she and myself, I would also like to urge everyone who is able to get the vaccine. She's seeing patients now with long-term complications from COVID, but she does want to point out that we can halt this and get a handle on it by people getting vaccinated. So if you're able to, go get that vaccination. It is time for a vaccinated summer, people. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining our Patreon family and being on the front lines.
Yes. And actually, you guys might have seen one of Jessica's shirts. She sent me a few of her designs. And by the way, they're incredible and so cute. And next paycheck, I'm definitely buying the one that says shots.
Yes, so good.
So definitely check her out. And again, it's The Art of Medicine.
It is The Graphic Art of Medicine, which is a clever name.
It is. So check her out, buy some merch. Thank you, Jessica.
Do. Thank you, Jessica.
Well, I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I blew a .011.
And I blew a .012.
Wow,
so
that was a close one.
Got it by the skin of my teeth. And for once, I don't have a water bottle beside me, so I'm sorry if my mouth sounds dry. I feel like I just sound
I feel like
saliva-y.
You can't hear the wetness of your mouth.
I hope not, because I'm about to be talking a lot with a very dry mouth. So this is fun. I'm glad we all have that visual to start us out. No, I don't like drinking out of other people's water bottles.
I understand that. You should get some
thank
water
you for the
if
offer.
you need it.
No, I have this wine. I think that'll be enough for now.
Okay.
Anyway, today I'm talking about the Russian fox domestication experiment. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
Really? Yay! I love when you haven't heard of my lessons. So we're going back to... we're going to go a little bit back before this happened. So we're in 1930s Soviet Russia. And in 1930s Soviet Russia, the study of genetics was considered a fascist science. This was due to its association with Nazi Germany's research on eugenics. Basically, you could not research genetics. It was essentially banned. Joseph Stalin even sponsored research attempting to disprove the genetic principles set by Gregor Mendel. Was he the Punnett Square guy? I don't know.
I don't know either. I thought the Punnett Square guy, his last name was Punnett.
Oh, probably. This was a different guy.
Well, I think he did do the Punnett Square.
I think Haley's right on this.
Well, he at least did the peas. He was the monk who grew the peas and realized the round versus wrinkly peas.
Okay. Yeah. So he studied genetics. Joseph Stalin did not like the guy. And by the mid to late 1930s, it got so bad that geneticists were being executed and sent to labor camps.
Wow. Okay, this is crazy because they really flipped the switch real quick because the Soviet Union, that's where those twins, Masha and Dasha, grew up and they studied their genetics.
That was after this, though.
I know. That's what I'm saying. They flipped the switch.
Yeah.
They went from nothing
no,
to...
No. Yeah, it did get switched pretty fast, especially because in 1948, genetics was officially declared a pseudoscience and all geneticists were fired from their jobs. But Joseph Stalin died in 1953. So once he died, studying genetics kind of opened up in Russia a little bit. But, those ideas don't go away overnight.
Along with other things.
Yes. But we're focusing on the genetics. These ideas persisted, and so studying genetics was still largely discouraged. This was the environment where Russian scientist Dmitry Belyaev that he faced in the late 1950s when he launched an experiment studying animal domestication. Dmitri wanted to study the process of domestication and wanted to see what it looked like in real time. He was especially interested in the domestication of dogs and decided that he could study this by domesticating wild foxes.
I think of a fox more as a cat-like creature.
Yeah, they're kind of, I feel like, a mix between dogs and cats, but they are part of like the canine family.
Okay. I feel like this is you when you got Ghost. You're like, I'd like to study the effects of domestication on this street cat.
It has not worked. He screams at me all day, every day to take him outside.
Oh, yeah. He was screaming all day Sunday when we were watching him.
I bet. Yeah. Today, I felt really bad because I promised him I would take him outside today. I talked to him and I swear he can understand what I say. And then I was like, okay, I can't take you out yet because the kids are being dismissed from the school next to us. There's just a lot going on outside. And then there were people working on our sewer outside, and sometimes he runs over there, and I was like, probably just keep him in until then. And then it started raining, and then we had to be here, and I was like, Ghost, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
yeah, poor baby. Anyway, there's actually archaeological evidence that humans have tried to domesticate foxes before, but they were unsuccessful. And it's funny that you brought up how they're similar to cats, because cats were actually domesticated around the same time as this archaeological evidence for foxes was discovered. And some scientists theorize that maybe we domesticated cats almost as a replacement for foxes because foxes didn't work.
That seems like that would hold true. I would rather have a fox in the house. That'd be cool.
Don't think you would, and we'll get to it.
If they could be properly domesticated. Maybe not rather, but it would be really cool.
Yeah, they're super cute. I definitely desire one, but not after doing this research.
Oh, no. I'm
not
excited.
Have you seen Juniper the Fox on Instagram?
No.
Oh, there's a famous fox on Instagram who's pretty cute.
Oh, I think my mom has sent me one of those videos.
She's adorable. And if all foxes were like that, I'd want one. And
Can I cut in with just an update on the Mendel thing?
Yeah.
So Mendel was the monk who created the recessive versus dominant, and then Punnett, you were right, Haley, invented the square, and it says the Punnett square is a visual representation of Mendelian inheritance.
Okay.
So
So
it's
you
the
were both
visualization.
kind of right.
Nice.
Thank you, Alec. He's on the ball after we just got mad at him for not correcting us.
Well, I just know in the editing room, I'm always like, God, I wish we would have followed up on that
I know.
empty question. Being an education podcast.
Right. I'm glad you did. I'm sure there's people screaming at us through the
Exactly. I
radios
knew
right
that.
now.
Yeah.
Definitely. And so we were unsuccessful domesticating foxes at first. And this makes sense because foxes are not very friendly animals. They're skittish, they're fearful, they're oftentimes aggressive toward humans. And we know now, even wild foxes that are raised by humans from babies, even those ones are unlikely to be anything but fearful and violent toward humans.
That's so weird because I feel like when an animal's raised by humans, they at least lose some of that edge.
Some of it maybe, but they still are wild animals with those wild instincts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're definitely not friendly animals.
I'm just thinking of cows that live in people's houses, they're trotting down the hallway. Have you seen those videos?
Yeah,
ever?
but cows aren't wild. Cows have been domesticated.
I just thought they were wild farm animals.
No, there's no
Wild
such thing as a
farm
wild farm animal.
I've seen a wild cow in Costa Rica. It didn't seem too crazy.
It was probably a domesticated cow that got out.
I don't know. There are wild
cows? Where?
Oh, yeah, in Costa Rica.
Yeah, but it's a domesticated species that has gone out into the wild.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
I'm just learning so much
I would
today. I'm being really vulnerable here, putting myself out here, guys.
You're like, I was pretty wild in Costa Rica too, but now I'm domesticated.
Look at me now. I pay
God.
my car bill every month. I'm fucking domesticated.
I wonder what the wild equivalent of cows even is. I feel like there's African
ox?
animals that look like cows. Yeah, maybe an ox, a buffalo. I don't know. That would be a good night class
horse?
topic. A horse, maybe.
That's so silly. As soon as they get domesticated, they lose a foot of their leg length.
Actually, that's almost kind of how it works, and we'll get to it.
Wow. Good
Yeah.
segue.
Yeah, good segue. So, foxes are cray. And so this, domesticating them was a lofty task. But Dimitri believed that he could do this by, very carefully breeding these foxes and selecting for only one trait.
It's like the girl who thinks she can change the bad boy. You're not going to change him.
No, he's never going to change.
He's never going to change.
Move on. Anyway, this one trait he was going to select them for was friendliness. And so Dimitri and his partner, she started out as an intern, but then became an equal partner with him. Her name is Lidmila Trut. And they left and started to go out to try to collect foxes for their experiment. And they toured fur farms around the Soviet Union. So they traveled from Siberia to Moscow to Estonia, all looking for foxes for their experiment. And they selected their foxes on basically how much they seemed predisposed to friendliness. So they would go to these fur farms and just open up cages and stick their hands in. And they would choose the foxes that showed less aggression.
I mean, that's how I would pick out a dog from the pound. Also, I wish the plural of fox was foxen.
Foxen.
Yeah.
Female foxes are called vixen.
Okay, that's pretty close.
Yeah. I think
close.
that's a good
Compromise.
compromise. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Forgot the word.
What if you're like, I think that's a good comprise.
That's a good comprise.
I wouldn't say anything.
I know you wouldn't. And then Alec would sit there and not say anything. And then I would just look like a moron.
I'd be like, oh my God, my whole life is a lie. Or is it a lee?
I hope there's people listening that are like, wait, they say words wrong. And those are our people.
Yes.
That just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to hang out.
I know.
If you've ever thought that it was a Ponzi scheme, you're one of us.
Definitely. When they were opening these cages and reaching for the foxes, about 10% of foxes displayed what they called a weak wild response. All the foxes were not happy that they were sticking their hands in the cage, but some of them, instead of lashing out and growling, would just cower, something like that. Overall, they purchased 100 vixens, which are female foxes.
There we go.
And 30 males to start their experiment. But if we think back to the beginning of this lesson, it was not okay to study genetics in this Russian political climate. So what they did was they told the government and everyone else that, oh, we're not studying genetics. We're trying to breed these foxes to make the perfect fur coat. Yeah.
Both can be true.
Yeah. And I think they might have actually told them that they were, I'm just kind of making this up, but I think they were talking about how they would make the foxes have better behavior so that they'd just be more docile farm animals, essentially, to make better fur coats. This lie worked. They were able to start their experiment, and they were using these silver foxes. They're also called gray foxes, and they're a variant of wild red foxes. So these foxes had already been farmed and selected artificially for the color of their fur. They're this dark blackish gray color.
Ooh, pretty.
They're really pretty. And the team's main goal when breeding these foxes was, to breed out the defensive reaction towards humans. So they started breeding their foxes. When the pups were born, they were removed from the mother's care and then hand raised by the researchers. After they were done bottle feeding, they were then put into cages, and their only contact with humans from then on would be on strictly scheduled intervals. Basically, as part of their study, the researchers would go to their cage and attempt to pet the foxes. This started at around 2 or 2.5 months of age, and then they would record how the foxes responded to human touch. They were given a numerical score of their level of friendliness, and this would go on until they were of breeding age, and then their scores would determine if they would continue to be part of the breeding pool.
What happens if they were not part of the breeding pool?
They would become fur coats.
Wow.
Yeah. Kind of sucks. I mean, it does suck. But it's also Soviet
Kind of
Russia.
sucks if you're a sock. If you're a sock. No, if you're a fox.
And then you become a sock.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's so morbid. Don't wear fur. But also, I'm just telling you how it is.
How do we feel about buying fur from a thrift store?
I feel positive about that.
I do too.
But It's
I
the
didn't
same
know.
way people like have like secondhand taxidermy and all that and leather. Like, I don't know. I feel like
It's fine.
It's fine. I think it's fine. If you disagree with me, okay. But like, if it doesn't,
What's done is done.
what's done is done. And if it's an antique, like, I feel like you should preserve it and cherish it, and that's better than just like throwing it away. I don't know.
Okay. I agree with you, but I just feel like it's controversial.
It is controversial. And also, like, I'd be hesitant to wear a vintage fur coat because I'd be afraid that someone thought I had bought it new.
Yeah, that's like now that, we're vaccinated, they've lifted all these mask requirements. It's like, but I'm still going to wear my mask because I don't want people to think that I'm an anti-masker.
Yeah, exactly.
Or an anti-vaxxer. God.
And, oh, God, not that. And also, like, just... Like, I know that they're lifting guidelines, but it's still a good idea to wear your mask because, like, a lot of people aren't vaccinated. We haven't reached herd immunity, and the COVID can mutate. So just keep wearing your mask.
Absolutely.
All in all, only about 10% of each round of these offspring were selected to become parents of the next generation. So they were pretty... specific in their choices. Not a lot made it through. And it was really important to the researchers that any behavioral changes were a result of breeding and not training. So they were really careful not to interact with or touch the foxes at all, except during, their designated experimentation times. They also kept a separate breeding population as sort of a control group to ensure that the changes really were due to breeding and not just like extra interaction with humans. And so this separate population of foxes was selected for their aggressive behavior. So what they were doing was they were taking the foxes with the highest scores, breeding them in one pool, and the foxes with like the lowest scores, the most aggressive foxes, and breeding them in a different pool. So they just had like one shed of really mean fucking foxes.
That's not a control.
I know.
That's a different testing.
I know.
group.
I put control in like quotes because it's not really a control, but also it's kind of showing the same thing as I don't know. It's an interesting. They did a few interesting things here.
This whole thing is very interesting, which is why it's a lesson on night classy.
Exactly. It was also really important that they selected only for the trait of tameness. So they were really careful with this, not to let any biases get in the way. Like they went by scores and scores only. This is how friendly they are. They can go on breeding. And as a result of this very careful breeding, aggression and fear responses were eliminated from the population within only 2 or 3 generations.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. And by the 4th generation, they saw really dramatic effects. The foxes were beginning to behave like dogs. And keep in mind, foxes are not like dogs. They are wild animals. They act more like weasels than like dogs. And these foxes were wagging their tails. They sought out attention from humans. They'd whine and they'd lick their handlers. And this happened really quickly in only a couple of decades.
Wow, that's so cute.
I know.
How long does it take for foxes to mature and be in their breeding?
I should have looked this up and I didn't, but I would guess not very long, like probably within a year or 2.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
That's what I would think too.
Yeah. Dimitri died in 1985, but Lemudmila, I'm so sorry
Sounds
to this
nothing.
poor woman. Her last name,
you pronounced it the first time.
Lemudmila.
Let me say Lemud.
Her last name is Trut. I'm going to call her Trut. She, like I said, started out as an intern, but when he died, she took over the project. And by 2005, almost all of the foxes behaved much like dogs. They were friendly and playful. They responded to human facial expressions, body language, and vocalizations. Like without training, they just innately were able to. But this is not the most remarkable part of this experiment. The most remarkable part is that although the foxes were only bred for a single behavioral trait, their physical appearances changed noticeably. One prominent characteristic they developed was floppy ears. And floppy ears are a trait only found in domesticated animals, with the exception of elephants.
Okay, that just makes me think of when they put like whales in SeaWorld and their dorsal fin just flops over.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't know if that's a result of breeding, because I don't think they like select. Actually, maybe they do for their training programs, breed them for
SeaWorld.
tameness. Yeah.
Well,
I think it's a
sometimes they
depressive
just,
symptom,
it's-
social
yeah,
symptom.
They're
yeah.
depressed, and they'll just bring them in from the ocean.
Still.
I don't know what they're doing now. Hopefully
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, I
but
think their dorsal fins flopping over is depression. But
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. That is a weird similarity that I didn't think about. The article I got this information from gave like a list of domesticated animals with floppy ears, and like it was mostly animals you'd expect, like dogs, cats, pigs, and goats. But horses were also on this list, and I was like, horses don't have floppy ears.
Yeah. What do they usually look like?
Well, I guess some horses do have floppy ears, and here's a picture of one.
Is it the cutest thing ever?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. It's like a horse and a dog.
I know, isn't it cute?
It's so cute.
And its ears like flop forward.
Yeah, they do. It does kind of look like pig ears or dog ears. I wonder if they can move them like a dog does.
Oh, that would be cute. And I think this particular picture of this horse, it's a race horse. And so it runs and its little ears are flopping.
Oh, I love that so much.
So cute. And the foxes also got spots on their fur. And this is another trait mostly associated with domesticated animals. Overall, they just started to look cuter. Their skeletons changed. They got shortened and curly tails.
Within decades?
Yes.
What the heck?
I know. They got shorter legs. So it was interesting that earlier you were talking about horses to cows and they got shorter legs. But that happened to the foxes. And they also got shorter snouts, shorter upper jaws, and got widened skulls. So they kind of started to look more like infantile. They looked more like babies. They had like smaller bodies and wider faces. They just got really cute.
How weird would it be if humans evolved so drastically, like within such a short period of time, based on like the city they lived in, for example?
Ooh,
what if you're like, oh, I know you're from New York because your ears are floppy? That'd be so weird.
I want to see a human with floppy ears.
I wonder what the Seattle trait would be, what the Cincinnati one.
Definitely Seattle is antisocial and mean.
Yeah, so like maybe you would like develop these like like how horses have garters on their eyes so they don't see it. What is it called? Blinders.
Garters. Like a garter belt.
I didn't know what to call it.
Have
It
like
just
these
seemed-
lacy doilies on their eyes.
Yeah, cute but antisocial.
Yes. What is Cincinnati's, like a chili spaghetti for hair?
Yeah, maybe. I was thinking something with chili, maybe like a chili stomach, maybe a stomach specially.
Ooh.
You know how some animals have like two stomachs or something?
Oh, or like you can digest chili without getting sick.
Yeah, no heartburn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. There
There
you
we
go. And we both have these things. Do you get heartburn when you eat chili?
No, I don't.
Okay, there you have it. And I'm really mean and antisocial. Another thing with these foxes is they became sexually mature a month earlier than wild foxes, and their mating seasons got longer. And these domesticated foxes could also breed out of season. Their litters on average also had one extra cub, and they lost some of their musky fox smell. Dimitri wondered how selecting for tameability could affect all of these physical traits. He guessed that it was because of the body's mix of hormones and neurotransmitters that could affect growth. So basically, if you're changing the chemistry of their brain, you're going to change the chemistry of their body, and they're going to develop a little bit differently. And also, making them act more like baby foxes, because baby foxes are friendly. And if you're making the grown foxes act friendly, maybe something with those genetics also makes them look more like babies.
So they're looking like babies. They're having sex more.
Yeah, I don't
and
know.
they're producing more babies.
They just love babies. They love being babies. They love looking like babies, and they love having babies.
It's a baby's world.
It truly is. So this breeding was affecting their neurochemistry. The domestic foxes had higher levels of serotonin than farm foxes, and serotonin is responsible for inhibiting aggressive behavior, but it's also critical in early development. So something with these extra hormones was affecting their development, but no one could quite put a finger on exactly what was happening with their genetics. They were just like, this is crazy.
Maybe if they were able to study genetics a little bit earlier, they would know.
Right. God damn it, Joseph Stalin. This is the only bad thing you ever did.
The stain of your existence is the genetics of foxes.
How dare you keep us from having domestic foxes earlier? Oh, Lord.
Man.
That was a joke. Anyway. And by 2016, the project had 270 tame vixens and 70 tame males. However, this lab was not getting a lot of funding. I'm sure you're shocked. And they were starting to run into some financial trouble. So they started selling some of their foxes. They started a bonsai ponzi where they sold foxi.
Thanks, Stalin.
And they started selling their foxes as pets. You can buy these foxes in the United States through a company called Lester Call-Manson Agency, Inc.
Wow, they couldn't have made it any easier to remember.
Lester Call-Manson?
Someone's like trying to type this into their like notes on their iPhone, and it just like
they're like, it keeps
like
auto-correcting to indictment.
Lester Call-Manson. I don't know why I just sounded it out so weird.
Because reading is hard.
It's so hard, you guys.
It's unnatural.
It really is. We were not bred to read. We were taught to read.
No wonder our eyes are so small.
And our brains so feeble.
Right. The patriarchy said, no, none of this mind reading, spirituality, intuition. You have to read. You have to
put in the work.
You have to go to school.
God damn it. Anyway, you can buy these foxes. They import them from Russia and sell them for about $8,900. You can also get one by commissioning a private licensed exotic animal dealer who might fly to Siberia and pick up a fox for you and bring it back.
Wonder if Joe Exotic knows anything about that.
Probably. It's not a very popular thing to do because it's incredibly expensive to do this way. This can cost between $6,000 and $12,000 just for the service, and then another $8,000 for the fox.
Wow.
So,
no, thank you.
No.
For so many reasons.
For
Mostly financial.
So many reasons. And I mean, it should be expensive because if you buy a fox, you need to be extremely financially stable to meet its needs. The lab itself sells foxes for $7,000. So if you go yourself, you could buy one for $7,000, and they sell them at 4 months old. However, this tameness does not mean they're fully domesticated and does not mean they will make easy, good house pets. They will not. These lab foxes are raised in cages. There's about 3,000 foxes on the site of the lab, and they all live within cages and sheds. They're not raised alongside humans. They're not raised in houses. And being sold at 4 months, that's past the fox socialization window. So they might have some traits of a domesticated animal, but they are really still not socialized. They're pretty wild. It's like getting a feral cat. You know, they also haven't been raised in human households, so they'll require a lot of training and a lot of potty training. We're usually not recommended to buy one as a pet unless you are someone incredibly experienced with handling exotic animals. The Royal Society for Prevention of Cruelty does not condone keeping pet foxes, stating that foxes are wild animals that do not fare well as domesticated pets. They should not be kept as such. Even the most experienced fox experts had difficulty in keeping adult foxes successfully in captivity as they have very specific needs. So yeah, and this mostly applies to wild foxes. The Siberian foxes are domesticated. They cannot live in the wild, but they're still extremely high maintenance and they have wild tendencies. If you're just like a normal person, you should not get one. There are wild fox breeders in the United States where you can buy a quote unquote pet fox. That's not recommended unless you're prepared to give it a lot of very specialized care. Basically, people will breed foxes in the United States, but these foxes are not tame. They are wild foxes that are sold as babies. And when they're babies, they're nice. And so you're told it's tame and you believe it because it's acting like a puppy. But true tameness is genetic. It's not learned. So typically when you get this fox, then once it reaches about 10 months old and goes through puberty, it does not make a good pet.
What do they eat?
They eat like a variety of things. They're omnivores, I believe. So they'll eat like bugs and meat and eggs. And they need something called taurine in their diets. And like if they don't have enough of it, they get really sick. It's hard and it's really expensive and they have to go to specialized vets. Pet foxes.
Just get a dog.
Right. Right.
Why?
It's so
Just get a dog.
stupid. It's so stupid. I think some people just want the bragging rights.
Yeah, it makes them feel special.
It
I mean, there's
does.
been plenty of, I think, studies based off of shows like what is it called, like Wild Encounters or something, where people like have wild animals as pets.
Yeah.
And they bring in professionals. They're like, these people just like have a need to have that like extra flair about them.
It's totally a need for attention in most cases. And I don't want to demonize all fox owners because some of these foxes are rescued. And some people, like if you're prepared to take care of it and like you've had the necessary training and you're prepared to dedicate pretty much 24/7 care to the animal, then sure. But most people cannot and will not do this. So just like proceed with caution. Pet foxes are legal in 15 US states, but you know, even domesticated, they're not like dogs. They have a much stronger digging impulse. They need an outdoor enclosure. And then I don't know if you know this, I didn't, but fox urine is a major problem. Like it smells like 10 million times worse than cat pee.
Ooh, I can't even imagine. I don't want to think about it.
No, it sounds awful. Basically, like the way people describe it is it's more like skunk spray, but like with like a strong ammonia smell, like cat pee.
So where do they go in people's houses?
They can be litter box trained. But then that's like still in the house making your house smell like shit. And foxes like can't be fully litter box trained because they have such a strong urge to mark, so they will like pee around your house.
I don't get it. I don't get why you would want that.
I don't get it either. I was reading like some accounts of people who like have pet foxes and like are good fox owners. One woman was like a furry and like really into like the furry art and like conference like scene, and like she literally dedicated her life to this fox, like lived, breathed for it 24/7, like accommodated everything for the fox. But like most people just are not able to do that and like don't have that level of obsession for their animal.
Yeah, that's like having a child. That's more than having a child.
It's more. Yeah, I would argue it's almost more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I saw on Reddit today, there was like an Am I the Asshole post, and someone was like, am I the asshole for giving my employee the ultimatum of I'm either going to like fire her or she has to give up her pet fox or I'm going to fire her, because she was taking so much time off work to care for the fox and it was like peeing on her. And so like even when she showered, she'd come to work smelling like shit.
Ew.
Yeah.
Fire her. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ew.
People in the comments had a good point. They're like, everyone's the asshole because like, yes, you should fire her for those things, but you're not firing her because she has a pet fox. You're firing her because she's late to work all the time and smells like garbage.
True.
Like, tell her those are the reasons. Like, just ignore the fox.
She doesn't need to know. How is she going to know?
Exactly. But yeah, they are not good pets. They also have like scent glands on their foot pads. So like just by walking around, they make things smell. And they're not as trainable as dogs. They have a much shorter attention span. These domesticated foxes are a little better. They're a little easier to train, a little less smelly, but still much more smelly than dogs. And then anyway, just like back to Dimitri's experiment. That was just my rant on why you shouldn't have a fox. I hope no one buys a fox after this.
Shouldn't have a fox. You should still wear your mask and get vaccinated.
Yeah, I'm now off my soapbox.
Mic drop.
For now. Scientists now use Dimitri's foxes to study and find what they hope what is called and what they hope to find, which is like a domestication gene. They'd like to isolate the gene responsible for what has been called domestication syndrome. So like we saw, like this trait of friendliness and domesticatedness also corresponds with all these physical traits. So the idea is there's like a gene or like a gene sequence that do this, and if we can isolate it, we can more easily study domestication and possibly more easily like domesticate other things. And so people are trying to do this. There was a study performed by, this is going to be a tough one, Guoje Zhang, who's a professor at the University of Copenhagen, and she and her team sequenced the genomes of red foxes. And they took 10 tame foxes, 10 aggressive foxes, and 10 standard foxes.
There's a control group. Thank you.
Exactly. This was basically in an attempt to, pinpoint the genes associated with domestication. They found like quite a few variations and differences between these three groups, but the most interesting one was what's called the SOAR CS1 gene. And I have a quote from Zhang. She says, "This gene is among the top genes best known as signs of artificial selection, since it significantly differs between populations. In human populations, this gene is associated with behavioral variants like autism and Alzheimer's. And in mice, it plays a role in neurosignaling. So it's possible that this gene does play a role in fox temperament because it has so much to do with how you behave. And when the researchers went forward in this study, they found that the docile and aggressive foxes had like very different variants of this gene. While this research is interesting, it is not considered proof of which gene is responsible for domestic behavior, as genes are incredibly complex and work together to create different effects. Dimitri's original study has also faced some criticism recently because it's been suggested that it's maybe like not as amazing as we originally thought. For one, because Dimitri's foxes weren't actually wild foxes. They had already been selectively bred for their fur and were already living in cages. So it's not like a true example of taking something wild and making it domestic. It was also a pretty low sample size. So it's theorized that, some of their traits like the spots like might not have been from like this domesticated gene, quote unquote, but like more just because it was a small population and like gene variants can like spread more rapidly.
There's a lot of questions and things that go into
exactly
sample sizes.
Too small. So like basically just, don't take this at face value. Definitely ask questions because it was not a perfect study. But anyway, regardless of the criticism, most scientists do uphold the usefulness and validity of this experiment because it's like one of the only times we've seen domestication play out in real time that we can observe. So even if it's not perfect, it still shows us some like really cool insight to how this process works and what can happen. And also like these foxes are still being studied and used to study domestication and genetics today. And that was the Russian fox domestication experiment.
Wow, it's so crazy to me that they actually changed so much within decades. You would expect that to take hundreds of years to physically be able to see results like that.
Definitely.
So
it is crazy. But like when you think about it, it makes sense because natural selection, like we know works really, really slowly. But if you have a lab in some decades, you can just crank them right out.
If you don't get some domesticated foxes, then you'll get some good coats that you can later pick up at the thrift store.
Sadly, yes. I got my information from NPR.org, a BBC article called "A Soviet Scientist Created the Only Tame Foxes in the World" by Lucy Jones, a Scientific American article by Jason G. Goldman, popsci.com, graziadaily.co.uk, exoticanimals4sale.net, and a Popular Science article called "The Genes That Turn Wild Animals into Pets" by Neil V. Patel. That was my lesson.
Thank you. All right, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
We actually decided to sponsor ourselves this week and plug our Patreon.
Independent women. But also thanks to all of our supporters on Patreon.
Yeah,
we're able
also not independent at all.
Completely not true. And it's all thanks to all of our supporters on Patreon, which there's not just the perk of being like a supporter of us, but it's also the extra content that you get to listen to and watch. There's videos on there as well.
Yeah, videos, and we put out, maybe you don't know this, maybe you're new here. We put out a extra episode every month where we have a guest who we call a substitute teacher, and they come on our show and do essentially what we do. So it's really fun because it brings some new life, some new senses of humor, and some new topics, because I feel like Haley and I have our interests, and sometimes it's hard to break out of those boxes. So we just get something totally new and different every month, only for our Patreon supporters.
Right, and who doesn't like a little extra surprise? For example, our last Patreon episode for April was our very own beloved producer, Alec. He is the man here at Parasaur. He's been on, this is his second time now. It was about a year apart, and the story, the lesson that he told was just insane. You'll have to go over to Patreon and join to listen to that one. But we're also really excited. Coming up, we have a comedian here in Memphis, one of my partner Tommy's friends, and I guess we're friends now too, John Miller. We're so excited to have him on. He hosts several open mics. He's again, like I said, comedian. He's a funny guy. He's going to come in and teach us a lesson for our May Patreon. So if you like extra content and you want to support a teacher, get in that an extra week when we release merch, we open that up to Patreon early.
And you get a discount on the merch.
Yeah, those all sound like amazing things, and we know you all are smart. So
So come be smart with us. Join our team. Be our number ones. Get on Patreon. You can click on the link in the show notes, or just go to patreon.com/nightclassy, and you can donate for as low as $1 a month and have access to all of our content. At the higher tiers, you get some extra perks like a sticker, being shouted out on air, and even getting to choose a lesson topic on that $10 tier. So definitely check it out, you guys. Thank you.
bye.
Cool. Everything's rolling.
Sweet.
Okay, for some reason I'm nervous. I don't know why.
Is it a touchy topic?
No, it's not at all. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Miss Madden's classroom. Okay, if you had to guesstimate how much you spend on coffee per year, what would you guess? Both of you.
Including
Purchase at the grocery store or at Starbucks or whatever.
Okay, I'd say I probably spend $10 a month buying a bag of coffee beans. And then maybe 2 trips to Starbucks a month. I'd say I probably spend $20 or less on coffee.
Per month?
Per month.
Okay.
But that's when I lived in Seattle, it was a lot more because Memphis coffee is trash and I don't go out for coffee anymore.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Alec, what do you think?
Mine's probably closer to $500 a year.
500. Okay.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I did it per month.
Yours is 300 or so. 10 plus 2 trips.
20. 240.
Okay.
I said $20 a month.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, 300. I guess if we round improperly, sure.
Okay.
This is great stuff, guys.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Awesome content.
You're I've budgeted for this?
No. I just I've been proud of myself lately because when I lived in Seattle, I'd get coffee at a coffee shop every single fucking day, at least once a day, because you just walk by good coffee shops all the time. And so I'm actually proud of myself for not spending money on coffee anymore.
Okay, well, hats off to you for spending $240.
No more, no less.
Year. Wonderful. Well, the average American who drinks coffee will spend on average between $1,000 to $2,000 on coffee per year.
That makes sense. I definitely have had years where that's been the case.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just have to, especially when you're surrounded with good coffee.
Absolutely. And when I worked in a coffee shop, I was getting coffee for free and still buying coffee.
How?
Because sometimes you're not working and then you have to still go in and get coffee.
Okay. All right. Well, we're talking about coffee today, if you haven't guessed that already.
I thought it was going to be budgeting.
Oh my God. Thank God
No.
it's not budgeting.
Kat would have a heart attack,
I
although
would.
we do need that lesson.
I literally did my taxes today on tax day because money stresses me out so much. I procrastinated till the very, very last moment.
Well, congrats on that. I'm sure you did them exactly by the book and did everything correctly.
To the best of my ability.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully there's a freaking coffee write-off because that would be amazing.
God, I wish.
So we're not really sure how or when humans fell in love with this drink, but there are two origin stories. One is in Ethiopia and one is in Yemen. So in around 850 AD, there's this guy in Ethiopia. His name is Kaldi, and Kaldi was just walking around, herding his goats, just vibing, But then the goats start going crazy. They're like jumping and they're running and they're bleeding. They don't want to go to sleep at night.
I thought you said they were bleeding. It's like, what?
No.
That's what I thought too.
Bleating. They're just like going bonkers, and Caldy's like, what the heck, guys? And he finds them all around these bushes that they're all eating the berries off of, and Caldy's like holding a berry in his hand, and he's like, what are you? Should I eat it? Should I not eat it? I'm going to eat it. And so he eats it. He gets an instant boost, and he brings a bunch of these berries in his pocket back home to his wife. She tries them. She loves them because of all the energy that she got from them. And she's like, these are heaven sent. They are divine from the gods. So Kaldi brings the berries to a local monastery, and they're like, fuck you. These are most definitely not heaven sent. Actually, they're the work of the devil. You're banned.
Why does everything good have to be the work of the devil?
Because the devil is good. Plot twist.
Hot take.
That's a good point, Haley.
Yeah, coffee is the work of the devil. In the monastery, all the monks are like, you and your berries can go to hell. And they throw the beans and the berries into the fire.
Oh my God. And then they roasted them into beans, and then they picked them out of the fire later and ate them.
Hell yeah. The fire roasts the beans. The smell is phenomenal. The monk is suspicious of this smell. He's like getting seduced by the devil basically in his mind. So he's like, let me just grind these up. Let's see.
So he literally did.
Yeah, he literally did that. He grinds them up, makes a drink. And the smell of what we now know as brewed coffee caught the attention of all the other monks. The smell of coffee brings all the monks to the yard. And before you know it, they're all drinking coffee and enjoying it. They're like, if this is wrong, I don't want to be right. And they vow to drink it daily to help their religious practices and keep them awake during their prayers. So Kaldi is a hero, and we get coffee.
That was a quick turnaround.
It was a bit dramatic. Maybe, it was interesting.
I can see how chewing on a raw, unroasted coffee bean would be the work of the devil.
Yeah, that does
that's
not
disgusting.
interest me at all.
No.
They created Altoids for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Historians believe coffee was not discovered all in one day, like this legend says. It's thought that people had actually been chewing on coffee beans and berries for centuries before it was ever even brewed. People would also ground the beans and mix them with ghee to make these balls that they would take with them on long journeys and just like eat chunks off of as sources of energy.
If y'all don't know, ghee is just like butter, right?
It is butter, yeah.
They're
It's
just
like
eating chunks
concentrated
of
butter
and coffee
Yeah.
beans. That's
I mean,
disgusting.
personally, that sounds like a dream, but
It's funny because when you run marathons, you pack your like belt with those things called goo, which is just like all just like gooey electrolytes and caffeine and sugar. Like all it is energy, but it sounds exactly like that.
it does. Yeah, that's like the modern version of ghee and coffee balls, really.
Yeah.
Thank God we now have goo.
Bye, ghee.
Bye,
Goo by ghee.
Hi, goo, bye, ghee.
Let bye goos be bye geese.
This message is brought to you by the devil. Which is also, that sounds like something that, you know, marathons would be sourced from, is the devil's work, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
So that's the story from Ethiopia. Let's go to the one in Yemen. The second legend involves a Yemenite named Sheikh Omar. He was exiled from his village. We're not really sure why. There's a couple different reasons depending on like who you ask or what your source is. But one of them being that he practiced medicine on a princess and he cured her. And then he decided to keep her.
Oh, good.
And the king exiled him. So, yeah. Interpret that as you'd like to. Omar was exiled. He was starving while he's like trying to stay in this cave, but he either found or was given, like some birds brought him the branch of a coffee plant with the berries on it. If it sounds a little far-fetched, probably is. They were too bitter for his taste, so he decided to cook them, but that only made them harder for him to chew, so he boiled them, and that's when he smelled the beautiful smell of coffee, and he knew he was onto something. He brings the coffee drink back to his village, and people try it, and they're like, oh, heck yeah, this is freaking amazing. Everyone's happy. His exile is lifted. And then coffee from then on was considered a miracle drug, and Omar was declared a saint.
I understand. That's fair.
Yeah, I understand why America runs on Dunkin'. I run on Dunkin'. And by Dunkin', I mean coffee.
Yeah.
They're pretty sure the coffee plant is native to Ethiopia. Either way, coffee became a jet setter. It spread to different countries through ports in the Arabian Peninsula. But before I get too far ahead of myself, I was like, what is coffee?
I thought you were going to say, what is the Arabian Peninsula?
Me too.
Do you have an answer? Or what is the Arabian
It's the part that sticks out and looks like a foot, right?
I mean, yeah, the girl knows her landforms. What can I say? But we're talking about coffee.
Okay.
All right, so coffee beans are not beans. They're actually, and you probably know this, you're a freaking barista.
I don't know anything about coffee. I know how to make it.
Oh, okay. So you're just basic. You're just a basic barista.
Yeah, I didn't go to barista college, contrary to what some might think. I just was taught how to make the coffee.
Well, I guess I'm educating the barista. So coffee beans are not actually beans. They're actually the seed of the coffea plant berries. They're almost always handpicked when they're being produced. And when it's harvested, they're actually white/green. They look nothing like what we see them as when we make coffee at home. And when I first saw this, it was kind of like seeing Mr. Krabs outside of his shell. I was like, did I Google the right thing? Like, that's not coffee. That's not coffee. That's a crab apple.
Have you ever had white coffee?
I don't think so.
It's like a thing back home, and basically it's like unroasted coffee beans, but like they dry them out and then you make coffee with that, and it's like, I don't really like it because it doesn't have much flavor. It's just like really light and nutty, and you can like make lattes with it, like vanilla lattes, and it kind of tastes like a vanilla steamer, but like I think it actually has more caffeine because the lighter coffee is, like the less you roast it, the more caffeine it actually has, because like the energy doesn't get burned off. Is this part of your notes? You're nodding at me.
Yeah, no, I'm listening and I'm agreeing with you. The reason that like the coffee taste we get is from roasting the beans.
And it like diminishes, like the more you roast coffee, the darker your roast is, the less caffeine it is. So this white coffee has like a shit ton of caffeine. And you can basically drink coffee without tasting any coffee and get wired.
Sounds like what I need. Although I do like the taste of coffee, but white coffee sounds great.
Yeah.
And that's something I learned in my research too, was I never knew why things were like light roast, dark roast, or medium. I just thought that maybe it was different plants or something. I had no idea. But yeah, it depends on how long the beans are actually roasted. But when you first take the seed off of, or the berries off of the plant, they're dried, like you said, they're hulled, and then they're polished. So the outer layers are removed, and then it's sent out as green coffee. And the coffee people then roast the seeds, which then makes them brown and it brings out all the coffee flavors. The most common is, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to say this correctly. The most common is Arabica. Is that how you say it?
Arabica, yeah.
Arabica.
Yeah.
Okay, Arabica. Okay. Arabica coffee. And then the second most common is the Robusta. And there's a whole coffee belt that grows the best coffee. It's basically just around the equator, makes the best environment for growing coffee. I'm going to talk about some special coffees. I wonder if you've heard about this or not. There's this animal called the Asian palm civet. You know about this?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I had never heard of this before. Oh, okay. So this civet really likes the taste of these coffee cherries, and they specifically pick out the ripest cherries and they eat them. Once they digest the fruit, the only thing left is the seed, aka the coffee bean, and it's in their poop. And through the digestion process, these seeds are fermented, and the civet poops the seeds out, and the seeds are still used to make coffee. It's called Kopi Luwak. Is that how you pronounce it, Miss Barista?
That sounds right to me. I honestly don't know what it's called, but I know about the poop thing.
It's poop coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, technically all coffee is poop coffee.
100%. On days that I have to drink my coffee on the way to work, it always makes for an interesting morning.
Yeah, you better
work.
clear out
Yeah.
10 to 15, maybe a solid 20 minutes.
Gotta make sure you get there 10 minutes early.
Or civet coffee, it's also called. The people who make it have two arguments as to why this coffee is the superior coffee. A, the civet specifically picked out the fruit, so it's special. And B, the animal's biological fermentation process is special in and of itself. So the drink is considered a rare delicacy. In the U.S., you can expect to pay between $100 and $500 per pound in 2020 or 2010.
Can we buy a pound of it with Patreon money and make a video trying it?
I would love that.
Yeah.
I don't even think we need to buy a pound.
Well, can you buy it? Can you buy less than a pound?
I'm sure you can.
Okay, then let's buy like the minimal amount possible.
What if we just really like it and then we get into civet poop coffee?
We get like addicted to it and like lose our house because we are buying so much civet coffee.
We take out a second mortgage of a house that we rent. I guess you got to risk it for the biscuit.
Donate to us on Patreon so we can support our obsession.
And okay, this is the sad part. Due to the shocking popularity of this drink, more and more civet farms have popped up in which these animals are force-fed the coffee cherries.
Oh no, never mind.
They're kept in small cages. Yeah, so we just need some organic.
Yeah, I was picturing wild civets, like them just finding the poop, but I guess that does not make sense.
Not in today's age. No,
Yeah.
they're not just following the civets around with a little net to catch their poop.
They're wearing like, you know how like carriage horses on the street like have those bags attached to them that collect
Yeah.
the poop? What if they were like putting tiny ones on civets?
Oh, that's like shockingly in my mind very cute, but I
Yeah.
know it's wrong.
No. Okay, now that I know like there's animal cruelty, we don't need to buy this coffee.
Cruelty-free coffee. Maybe if it was free range.
Free range civets.
You're like, we'll just do it ourselves.
Yeah.
We just import like civets illegally.
Domesticated civets,
Yeah.
preferably.
I meant that you guys would be passing the cherries.
Oh. No, thank you. We
No.
we could make our cats do it.
Oh my God.
There's an idea. Our cats eat good food, too.
Yeah, we could just throw some coffee cherries in there.
That civet
No
looks
problem.
like Safety.
It looks exactly like Safety.
Yeah, I pulled up a picture of a civet and it looks like Haley's cat.
Yeah.
Remind me
Maybe
to put a picture of the civet on Instagram. 'Cause
You'll
it's
have
really
to.
cute.
It's really freaking cute. Okay, so that's civet coffee, or civet coffee. I keep saying it's civet. Anyway,
I don't know which one it is if we threw you off.
cool. It's a mystery. I don't know either. Okay, on to the next thing. A few weeks ago, I was in Fresh Market for the first time ever. I've never been in there before. And I passed the coffee section and I was like in heaven. It smelled so good. And I was smelling, of course, with my mask on the best I could. Like I was smelling all the different flavors. Like they have peanut butter cup. They have like Yeah. And it smells like these things. They have donut shop, maple syrup, like so many weird flavors. It smells so good.
Did you buy any?
I did. I haven't tried it yet though, because I was wondering, I was like, how in the world do they make these smell so good? Like, is it something they do to the plants or what is it? I did not like the answer.
Oh, no.
Basically, they take the roasted coffee beans and they soak them in chemical syrups and just shake them all around, and it sticks to them. And the flavor sticks to the coffee beans because they use a solvent called propylene glycol. It's used in like pharmaceuticals and airplane de-icing agents that get the flavor to stick to the beans.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. I bought this like $15 bag of coffee that smells amazing. Like Tommy's entire kitchen smells like French vanilla.
Does it taste like French vanilla too?
I haven't tried it yet.
I'm sorry. I'm stupid. Yeah.
I researched and I was like, I don't know if I want that in my body. Like, I'll eat civet poop, but I don't know about all these chemicals.
Well, you ate chemicals and everything.
That's true. I'm gonna have to drink it. For God's sake, I spent $15 on it.
Yeah. Also, like, that's not like basically all it's saying is they soak it in flavor. Like, that's not that bad.
I don't know. They made it sound really bad in the article I read.
I mean, when you read the scientific names of like chemicals in anything, it's gonna sound worse than it is.
That's true. I just didn't like it. Okay.
You're like, I get organic peanut butter coffee, and it shows a civet being force-fed peanut butter and then being shaken.
Listen, people, there's a right way to do this.
You gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet.
That is
Fresh Market.
I mean, how did you think that they got the taste?
Like I said, I thought that it was something they did to the plant.
Well, you can't, like, coffee has tasting notes, like just like wine does, but it's not going to be so strong as to make it literally stink like maple syrup.
Do I look like a coffee expert to you? Because I am not.
I mean,
hold on, you're telling me you didn't know that French vanilla was added?
Of course I knew that.
I just didn't think they did
coffee,
it like that.
Coffee
I didn't know that. I didn't know it. That's why I'm saying I'm on Haley's side.
Well,
here.
it just smells so strong. Like, coffee can have tasting notes of vanilla, but it's like wine. Like, if a wine has a tasting note of vanilla, it doesn't like smell strongly of like vanilla syrup. You know, like that has to come from flavoring.
Like, I didn't know. Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry if I
works.
sound like I'm attacking you.
Well, you do. No, I'm just kidding. It's quite all right. Just saying, I didn't know, and I'm appalled, and I need to take a hard look at everything.
I am shocked and appalled. I am writing a letter to Fresh Market as we speak, and I'd like to speak to the manager.
Tommy literally asked the checkout girl while we're checking out. He was like, "Hey, do you know how they get these to smell so good?" She was like, "Oh, no, I don't know that."
She's like, I signed an NDA, so I can't. She's just like, they're always listening.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. I need to go down that coffee aisle. I guess I'm missing out.
Yeah, you really should. It's great. I guess I'll have to try it maybe tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
I'll let you all know how it goes. Hopefully I survive and don't develop cancer within the next year. So
yeah, let me know.
At the very least, we can get you to spit on our iced over windshields this winter.
I hope to never have a winter like we had this winter for the next 5 years at least. Like, I'm wintered out.
Yeah, true.
Okay, well, now that we got that out of the way, as we learned earlier, I'm throwing it back. One of the most popular types of coffee is Arabica, you said? Arabica.
Right? I honestly don't know.
For some reason, I think that it's, I don't know what I think, but when you say Arab, it's Arab, not.
Yeah. I have no, like, I cannot stress this enough. I have no idea.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just
I
don't
got
want
us
to be
here.
wrong.
Okay.
Arabica.
Arabica.
Okay. The most popular type of coffee is Arabica. The Arab people had a monopoly on this production for over a century. They made sure that no germ-free seeds left the country because they would only sell and put out roasted or even pre-made coffee. It goes on for over 100 years until a Dutch merchant steals a coffee plant in 1616 and takes it back to Amsterdam, where they preserve it in a botanical garden. And then by the 16th century, coffee had reached the rest of the Middle East, North Africa, and coffee houses became super popular. The first coffee shop is in the Arabian Peninsula, and people, just like they would today, they would go and play games, talk politics, and they later grew popular in Europe as well. And they were really thought of as a place for like intellectuals to meet. They were nicknamed penny universities because you could buy a coffee for a penny and then be in conversations.
That's cute.
I know.
Can we open a coffee shop and call it Penny University?
That would be amazing. I wonder if that exists.
Yeah.
That could be one of our ventures, another revenue stream.
Yes, another one on top of
Amongst our many.
the nothing we get from this podcast.
No, we get, we have our Patreon people. Shout out to
yeah,
you all.
but like
Thank you so much.
all the money we get from this podcast gets recycled back into this podcast.
Yeah, it goes into the business.
Yeah, we do not get anything.
It's one of two revenue streams.
Shout out Shelby County Schools.
Hey. So one day we'll open up night classes, coffee house, call it the Penny University. That's actually very cute.
That is great branding.
Yeah.
Women obviously weren't allowed in these unless they were
making it.
Unless they were performing.
Oh.
But even then they weren't allowed to be seen.
What?
So they would have to like sing from the rafters or behind like a curtain or something in these coffee houses.
That kind of sounds like the best of both worlds. Like you can stay in your sweatpants and not put on any makeup.
That's
and
why
go
we
make your money.
Started a podcast.
That's true. That's why we're podcasters and not YouTubers.
But at the same time, I like to get a little dolled up when we record because it's like a bright spot to like,
It's the only thing we've had to get ready for a year.
I thought of something it's so silly, but it's so true to me at least. Like, I like to get dressed up sometimes for teaching or just like being at work because it makes me feel good. And I get, kind of made fun of a little bit by the other teachers. They're like, what are you doing? Like, your kids are going to like ruin that like skirt or whatever. And I was walking in today. I was like, a nice outfit a day keeps the depression away.
That's so true.
I know.
Yeah.
That's very true.
There was a time in college when I had like an internship and I had to dress like business casual, but I was in college or like not even business casual, just like business clothes. And I didn't have any business clothes. So I like went to Goodwill because I had no money and just like got the only business clothes I could. And they were all hideous. And wearing them, like going to work in clothes I hated every day, like made me depressed.
It's painful. Yeah. The way you look can sometimes reflect how you feel.
It definitely does. And like affects how you carry yourself. And if I felt like it affected like my ability to do my job almost. Like I just didn't feel confident.
I agree. Yeah. Recently I kind of like let go of the jeans that I had like after I graduated college and post-quarantine or pre-quarantine. And I was just like, these don't fit me anymore. And that's okay. I'm going to invest in new jeans.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I feel great. Like I'm tired of looking at clothes that don't fit because, it doesn't feel good if it doesn't fit you.
It's amazing what a new pair of jeans can do to your self-esteem. At least in my world.
Same here. Mm-hmm. And I just got 4 new pairs.
Nice.
So it's over for you bitches.
Are those one of your new pairs?
They are.
Are they the Gap?
Yes,
I have the
are.
same pair.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's a second pair.
I know. We just both have really good taste.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Also, they were on sale. Well, I don't know if these were, but the other ones that we have matching. Gap had a great sale like 2 weeks ago.
They always have great sales on their jeans, and I swear to God, you guys, the Gap has the best jeans. If you want to go spend $300 on jeans, go ahead, but you can get better jeans from the Gap for $30.
Agreed. Kat introduced me to Gap jeans, and they're truly where it's at.
Yes.
Okay. Well, enough about that. On to coffee. So in these coffee houses, women were heard and not seen. They became very popular in Europe later in the 16th century, but coffee actually ended up being banned by the Catholic Church because it was considered a pagan drink. But under circumstances that are unknown, Pope Clement VIII tried coffee. And he was like, I have an idea. Let's just baptize the beans.
Oh my God.
And then the devil won't be able to possess you.
Oh my God.
And everyone's like, yeah, baptize the beans. And then the Catholics were allowed to drink coffee again.
Nice. I need someone to baptize my Burger King cheeseburger.
Yeah. Also, I have questions. Like, if coffee is the drink of the devil, how did the Pope get to be putting this drink on his lips?
Popes do not have roles.
They don't.
No, they do much worse things than drink coffee.
Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately.
Yikes.
So yeah, they're baptizing the beans. Everyone's drinking coffee. Coffee ends up coming to North America after the Boston Tea Party. Americans switched over to coffee, and it became patriotic to drink coffee. And that's also, again, when America started running on Dunkin'. But I think it's also important to recognize that the popularity of coffee was also riding on people who were kidnapped and enslaved to keep producing and farming this coffee. It has become the second most popular drink in the world, right behind water. And it is the most traded commodity right behind petroleum. And again,
Did not know that.
It's a big money. But the money falls disproportionately because the industry is worth billions, but those who are farming coffee plants today are living in poverty. So, there's the good side of coffee that it's like makes my brain happy, but there's the bad side that's like slavery, poverty.
Yeah, you have to be really careful to get ethically sourced beans.
Absolutely. Another bad thing, coffee shortages. People have been talking about coffee shortages for a really long time now, and basically humans are just destroying the earth. We already know about that. But right now, there's a lot of droughts that are affecting Brazil, and Brazil produces the highest percentage, about 45% of the world's coffee exports. And this drought has led to crop areas that have lost between 30 to 100% of their crops in some areas. Prices on coffee haven't gone up quite yet because the supply is kind of stocked up, but it won't last forever. This means that maybe coffee prices will go up. Maybe coffee will be like the last straw for us humans to start making big changes for the environment. Okay, this brings us to my second to last part of this lesson, medicinal uses. For hundreds of years, coffee was considered like the magic drug, the cure to everything. The U.S. Army even made sure to include coffee in almost like every meal in all of their rations during like the World Wars. But now, thanks to science, we know that there are actually some really great benefits to drinking coffee. Coffee drinkers are less likely to die from some leading causes of death in women, such as coronary heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and kidney disease. People who drink coffee are less likely to get type 2 diabetes. Caffeine is linked to a lower chance of developing Parkinson's disease. And if you have Parkinson's disease, drinking coffee can help you control your movements. Dark coffee literally makes your DNA stronger. It decreases DNA breakage.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I don't understand why like people are always saying like I'm cutting down on coffee or like I'm cutting out coffee. It's like coffee literally is healthy for you.
I don't know.
Why are you cutting back on coffee?
If anything, like cut back maybe on like the added sugar.
Yeah, I guess
and
if you're
dairy.
like dumping creamer and caramel sauce in your coffee, I guess I could see that. But then like,
or airplane de-icer.
but but like people are literally like, oh, I'm on a health kick. I'm not drinking so much coffee, or I switched to tea. It's like coffee is good for you.
Yeah, there are so many benefits.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Me either. And if that's not enough for you, coffee drinkers were 26% less likely to develop colon cancer.
Wow.
Probably because you're getting flushed out so often.
Flushing out all that waste, cleaning the tank.
Okay, I'm going to end on some fun facts.
Okay.
The origin of most coffee trees grown in Central and Latin America today can be traced back to a coffee tree that was gifted to Louis IX by the burgomaster in Amsterdam in 1714.
Wow.
So they all came from that one tree. According to mostfamouslist.com, the most expensive coffee machine in the world. Take a guess. How much do you think the most expensive machine is in the world?
We're talking like a home brew system?
No, in the world overall.
Like what kind of a machine? Like an espresso machine or like something that processes like coffee on like a production plant?
It's not a production plant. It's in a restaurant.
Oh, okay. Like so an espresso machine.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm going to go $100,000.
Okay.
I'm going to go $780,000.
You were the closest. It is $1 million.
Damn.
Wow.
The Java bot at the roasting plant. There are actually a few different locations here in the U.S. and it has like all of these different canisters of all these different beans. They can specifically set everything, every single part of the coffee making process with that machine.
Cool.
And the next runner up was like 20,000. So it was a huge difference. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
We'll have a few Java bots at Penny University.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. At least 3.
Spare no
One
expense.
for each.
They're going to be pink. Ooh, or copper.
I
or
think
pennies.
copper.
Mhm.
I think copper for sure. I think it should be old-timey modern.
Yeah. Okay. I used to go to this coffee shop in the International District. And if you are from Seattle, it's like at the International District, like link rail stop. And they have like in their window this giant hot pink espresso machine. And it was so cool.
Do they
And
use it?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, that's good. I
Yeah.
thought it was just like on display.
No,
in their
they
window.
use it. I'm like, that thing must have been expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A, being an espresso machine. B, being a pink
Yeah,
one.
it's hot pink. It's so cool. And I used to get my coffee from there just because I liked their pink espresso machine.
I think that's a good enough reason.
Yeah.
Okay, in Italy, coffee shops started selling espresso shots with hot water for American soldiers in World War I believe, because they're like, this espresso coffee is too much. So they sold it with hot water. Thus, we have the Americano.
Woo woo.
Woo woo. There's an annual barista competition. It starts with 50 competitors who each make 4 espressos, 4 milk drinks, and 4 original signature drinks in 15 minutes set to music. They're judged on taste, cleanliness, creativity, technical skill, and overall presentation. By the end of it, one of them is named the World Barista Champion.
That's fun. Where is that?
Fun. It's all over the world. It's been in the US. It was in Seattle a couple years ago. It was in Atlanta, but it's kind of like the Olympics, really.
Cool.
Well, that's my lesson on coffee. My sources are myfriendscoffee.com, Explore Modes YouTube, liveeatlearn.com, Coffee 101 by Sarah Bond, Wikipedia, SeriousEats.com, National Coffee Association, thespruceeats.com, worldbaristachampionship.org, and hopkinsmedicine.org.
Thank you, Haley. That was so good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you enjoyed this lesson, please go rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Tell a friend, follow us on social media, and maybe even check out that Patreon for some extra content. But thank you so much for listening. And 3, 2, 1, class dismissed.